some new channels that we're a part of, and that's where I kind of want to kick off the show. Is just a couple of housekeeping announcements. First of all, if you head over to zetic.news, that's zetetic.news, look up zetic. It means to proceed by inquiry. You can see Xavier Diamant's latest new article. He published it June 5th. Fed scripted housing, energy, fuel, food crisis is opening salvo in the second American not so civil war. And we've been at civil war, you know, progressively, more intensely for a while, but you know, it's the shots have been fired, I think, you know, audibly at this point. And that's what your article really touched on. And
oh, big time. I mean, just the media, I think, really is one of the most pernicious weapons, because people have gotten used to seeing the biggest purveyors of information as automatically the most trustworthy. And that is the most dangerous mistake that you can make.
That doesn't seem to have changed very much, despite all of the things that have happened in, say, the last 10 years, which would undermine the credibility. You know, when you really corner someone in conversation, they can't deny it. Right. They agree, but yet people just repeat what they say anyways.
And we've gotten into so many different topics, so many different layers to this beast system. It's very onion-like. You know, you peel back one layer and there's, you know, that much more, you know, substrate behind it. And you keep peeling and you realize that it is just the peel. Like, there's no actual essential reason or substance behind hardly any of it. It's just layer caked insanity to a great extent. And it's the result of all of these, you know, intergenerational, multi-generational, trauma bonding, ritualistic edifices that have basically aggregated over time and inform, you know, passing things that we kind of take for granted in day to day, but are emblematic of a cult that we've all been initiated into, and just through the various education systems, all of the artificial cosmologies and everything. And the particularity of this article is just kind of looking at the microcosm of, like, you know that it's a failed system when, despite all these supposed advances in the society and all these supposed progressive politics, you can't even provide affordable housing for the people who actually need it. I mean, isn't that a sign of a system run by out-of-touch oligarchs? Like, of course it is. So, there you have it. I mean, if whether you want to look at the incredible consolidation of real estate construction in the hands of a few private contractors that work for these mega corporations whose largest shareholders are these huge equity firm groups that oversee and are connected. Again,
well, you mentioned the housing crisis, and like the crisis that we had in 2008 is we were building McMansions everywhere, and everybody was
and loaning them out to whoever.
Right. You know, people thought that they would be earning income by buying a house or actually borrowing money to live in a house temporarily. It's just total insanity. But, you know, so like they say it's an inventory crisis rather than what it really is a monetary crisis.
Yes.
And, you know, I actually did a short video that was summarily banned by YouTube, which is why part of our announcements is we're now officially, you know, established. We're streaming now. This is our first episode on Rumble. What are the other ones? Rumble, Odyssey, yeah. And we do have Gab and BitChute, although we don't have streaming set up on that yet. So right now, 4 platforms: multicast, YouTube, Theta TV, Rumble, and Odyssey. But so you can actually see that short video I published on YouTube, but was banned on Odyssey, for example, or Rumble, for example, where I talked about in our area where ZNN is generally located, not specifically anywhere, but
it's not that far from us.
Not that far. The Research or Retard Triangle Park, North Carolina, as being just a archetype idiotic bureaucracy. And there's just so many different examples. One of the ones that I listed in the video was the Durham, North Carolina mayor's out-of-box idea to help the, quote, housing crisis.
Oh, God.
And not only do we have public housing with storied problems, complaints, deficiencies that go back years and years and years, which, of course, they blame on Trump, right?
Been going on for decades.
Yeah, because it's a federal program, not local, right? Of course, the local municipality is not responsible. It's on the federal government to do. Anyways, the out-of-box idea. Well, what's the housing crisis? Well, you got people making six figures who can't even buy a house here because of the inflated real estate prices. Yeah. And so her idea is to use tax money to buy this real estate at inflated prices and then sell it back into the market at quote unquote affordable prices. Now, what kind of government, what kind of plantation leasing arrangement is that? Like, I went to Lanai one time. Lanai is one of several different islands in Hawaii.
Oh, nice.
And Lanai was owned by the Dole Company. Mm-hmm. And they basically set up there in the early 1900s and, started a plantation for pineapples. And the people who resided there, you might call them indigenous people, well, they started working there. They formed agreements with them. Well, they got housing from the Dole Company, and then at a certain point, the Dole Company went away. Mm-hmm. And yet, there were all these people who were leasing the land essentially from the Dole Company. And this island was purchased by Larry Ellison, the Oracle CEO. And then I think Mark Zuckerberg bought it. And so it blew my mind when I went there. 'Cause I was at a Four Seasons hotel and the quote indigenous people were working there. I mean, I felt and heard the resentment. Mm-hmm. Yep. In their tenor, I heard conversations complaining about the conditions of the quality of life there, and what blew my mind is that many of these people are mortgaged to a single individual like this. Mm-hmm. And I just don't think it's right, This has come about from usury. More money is made on the money that was borrowed to pay for a house than made by the carpenters, the plumbers, the electricians. It's all screwed up.
Well, yeah, and then you have these huge slush funds, and again, one of the reasons why government's so corrupt is that it really, by design, in its bloated bureaucratic state, cannot be transparent. Because if they were, then people would riot in the streets the next morning. If people understood the extent to which grift and graft and corruption and just heinous misappropriation of funds, insider pocket lining, you name it, is done in the name of maintaining the public good, and the zero amount, the negligible percentage that's actually rendered back to the original creditor, i.e. the taxpayers, is, it is the formula for all top-down totalitarian systems.
Yeah. So on that note, one of the other announcements I wanted to make, and actually your article featured a video by this same individual, Paimon Motahede, mm-hmm. the president and founder of Freedom Law School. We have installed Freedom Law School as a YouTube gallery on one of our news channels. So if you're looking at ztitic.news or you're watching this live stream on one of the few channels that we're streaming, you can see the menu bar. We aggregate and pull in different sources of information. We're not saying any of it is the verbatim, end all be all truth of anything. It's just there for your digestion and for you to proceed by inquiry. For example, on the Taxes and Lawfare page, we also bring in the IRS Newsroom, which is the IRS very own publication. So it talks about IRS elects new deputy chief for criminal investigation division, happenings on within the bureaucracy. We've got Federal Reserve Board press releases. We've got excoriated former IRS agent Joe Bannister's blog. We've got another YouTube gallery talking about different legal subjects. For example, the current one that's up there is legal facts about Social Security numbers, or you might call it the social surveillance number or the slave surveillance number. But anyways, about Paymon, so I've been listening more and more to Paymon's channel, and I think he's shadow banned much like we are, because he is very buttoned up with his presentation. He doesn't make any sort of theoretical inferences or he's very much focused on the law as it's written, using government published publications, IRS publications, manuals, code books, to articulate his points, leaving no room for someone to prejudice his point of view by saying, oh, you're just a sovereign citizen or something like that. And he talks a lot about like patriot mythology and how it can get you into legal trouble,
sure.
Which it can and has, unfortunately. But part of this announcement is that we have gotten somewhat of an agreement from Paymon's people, let's say, and Paymon through YouTube comments to be one of our special guests on a future show. So we've talked to his folks, his people, not his parents, and made them aware of his installation here. We've commented, and we've had back and forth on YouTube. Highly recommend you check him out, hopefully on ztitic.news, and look forward to that future episode, because we're probably going to focus on the subject of taxation when it comes to cryptocurrency, because that is at the intersection of a lot of what we're doing with ZNN. It's has a lot to do with what's going on in the market, meaning people are looking for alternatives, and I think it will be a really good illustrative conversation that could potentially go viral, at least in the crypto community, because my God, the confusion.
It's unreal.
It's unbelievable, the confusion around, and there's a thick, creamy icing on top of fear.
Sure.
The fear level is just insane.
Yep.
And I just don't know if I agree that the answer is to surrender everything over to the government and inform them of every little detail of your life. I mean, where is the law that says you have to do that? That's kind of Paymon's central question.
It's like it's totally irreciprocal on the part of the government, because whenever the people try to scrutinize the ins and outs and minutia of government life, they're branded a domestic terrorist. And
you have to file it. First, they had to pass the FOIA Act before you could even file a FOIA Act request. And it's like, so I have to go through all this rigmarole just to see the internal communications. But at any point, you can come to me and demand it, summon it, and I'm expected to just, well, actually, you're not. You have a constitutional protection, supposedly, to not incriminate yourself or have to, so. Well, anyways, I think it's gonna be awesome when we get Paymon on to talk about that.
We would have a lot of dynamic conversation there.
Yeah, and one of the things,
pressing issue.
This is my last housekeeping announcement, and I know it's already been such an engaging show. We're just still talking about like housekeeping.
Yeah.
But Theta, where's the announcement? This is a bit of a Theta announcement. Introducing live stream, support for Theta Video API, enabling decentralized live streaming in any app or website.
See, now we're talking.
So this
is getting good.
This came out June 9th by Theta Labs, and this is what we've been communicating to them wanting.
Absolutely.
You know, like on the Discord channel, the Telegram channel, on our discussions, we talk about it. It's a huge part of our roadmap. Actually, it would be our preference, other than the fact that the Theta quote video API doesn't have an inherent audience. It's an infrastructure.
Right.
But if all of our SOCMED activities are driving to our website, our home page, that's the place to integrate the Theta Video API.
Definitely.
Where we are literally recycling staking rewards from our Guardian node and Edge node operations and our T-Fuel and Theta ownership back into the operation, which allows us to sensorlessly, with high fidelity, perhaps in the metaverse, stream ZNN to anyone who wants to watch it around around the plane.
Right. Exactly.
And I regret not having able to put the time into looking at, you know, the walkthrough. It doesn't look too difficult, but you know, the kind of the holy grail is where someone has taken this API, they've built a WordPress widget, and when you're watching it on a website, you're actually sharing your own bandwidth as well to concurrent users, let's say. And so then live streams become not only sort of somewhat self-powered by the users themselves, but the users could actually be making money from watching what we're providing. Because to use the API, we have to give it T-Fuel. Okay, and I don't understand exactly how much per minute. That might be dependent on how many people are watching at a time and some other factors. And I don't know exactly, you know, couldn't say for per minute how much T-Fuel might you earn or whatever. That's all in the technology, right? But that's a cool concept that, you know, not only can you go to ztitic.news and watch our original content and be rewarded, however minuscule the amount is, you know, until CNN completely dies and we need a replacement, and we ascend to that throne in every airport, you know, shoot for the stars, right, Xavier?
That's right.
And maybe you'll get to the dome. No,
right.
But I think that's kind of where my head is at. That's where I think this is all going. And I'm excited. I just wanted to mention that we don't have any formal integration to announce or anything, but I wanted to call this out, keep up the Theta news, despite the market conditions, which, hey, fine. You know, we're still earning the same amount of T-Fuel from our staking activities. And, you know, this gets into the taxation issue as well. What I want to bring up to Paymon is, okay, we're staking Theta that we got. Let's just say we traded Bitcoin that we got for the Theta. Now we're staking the Theta. We're earning T-Fuel for it, and we're transacting with Theta Video API by sending it T-Fuel to now power our business. Where's the income tax come into that? You know what I mean? Because people, I know people who actually, they generate T-Fuel from staking. They assign a dollar value based on an index at a timestamp, and then they pay based upon that. It's mind-blowing, you know. And I've seen a lot of ignorance in different Telegram channels about, you know, like people pipe up every now and again and they're like, well, you got to do this or that with this DeFi thing or that DeFi thing for tax reasons. And I'm just like,
it's like,
get me out of here.
I know. It's like, guys, like, don't you understand that The whole point is to try to create an alternative financing mechanism independent of the existing one. Like, you don't want to just like literally roll over the second there's like any kind of ambiguity and be like, oh no, we're completely supporting it.
Yeah,
We're completely included.
I kind
the
of
dollar transcends us.
I kind of
Absolutely.
wanted to play part of one of Paymon's presentations because he's addressed this issue, so I kind of already know how he feels, but I think that the community needs to hear it. But you know, like now the IRS is like, they're trying to like tighten the screws, so to speak, and they're requiring all these new entities to generate new 1099s, and that's what everybody fears. Like, this is why I'm going to surrender the information, is because, well, the exchanges are going to report it anyways. And it's like, well, did you ever think that did you ever wonder if the exchange should be reporting it in the first place? And also, one of my favorite subjects that Paymon talks about is how the IRS is falling apart.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
I had a conversation with someone recently who is in a high legal position in a Fortune 500 company, and we were discussing a situation with someone regarding a tax disagreement. And as we were discussing it, you know, this individual laughed about, she was conducting the call from her, you know, from her phone. She was trying to read an IRS letter on the phone, and she laughed about the font and the text, how hard it was to read on the phone. Well, that's because they're using 60s era technology.
Yeah.
They still operate mainly by fax machine, and they can't hire people. They pay $15 an hour for people to physically type and transcript, you know, if they get a paper return, they have to type that into a archaic software system. Paymon talks about it being COBOL or something, a programming language that nobody uses or knows anymore. So it's very difficult, and like 50% of the IRS is eligible for retirement. So those are the most senior people who know the most about how to do things. Those are the people who would train all these new hires they're trying to get. So like if you go on Taxes and Lawfare, you might see on Ztitic, not news, you know, you might see, I've seen publications here about how, you know, oh, they're recruiting, you know, 15,000 new employees, blah, blah, blah. Well, Paymon points out, you know, they promote their hiring activities like they're trying to hire. But look around, folks. Have you seen any for hire signs recently? It's kind of hard to find good work. And that extends to the government itself. Yeah. That's what we see across the spectrum. You know, from healthcare to police to social services to the public education system to taxpayer services. And the IRS just admitted a few weeks ago that they destroyed 30 million paper information returns, W-2s and 1099s, because they couldn't handle the workload. And they said they're suspending collection activity on, you know, the relevant tax years, because they legally, once they did that, they don't even have the information to really go after these people anymore. You know, so a lot of it is the government. Well, most of the revenue that they collect is derived from people, quote, doing the right thing. It's not from audits and seizures and garnishments.
Right.
Those are the fringe cases. And so anyways, this is a Paymon subject. We'll save all that for when we have him on, because I think that's going to be just like a firecracker episode.
Definitely.
But check him out. He has he broadcasts his weekly thing just before our show, I think starting 7 p.m. Eastern. Every Thursday. So check him out. I'd love to get to every Thursday. That would be a great CNN goal.
Amazing.
Wouldn't that be like a dream job?
Well,
and then if we could actually, you know, T Fuel's out like what, 4 cents now. Yeah. But if we're talking about like T Fuel $2 or $1, right? It's the kind of thing where, we could really remove ourselves from the system.
Yeah.
Okay.